Dr. Lyara Voss moved her long fingers across the glowing control panel. The ancient database hummed softly in the quiet archive chamber. She had spent 3 years searching through millions of records, but today felt different. Today, she might finally find the answer to a question that had bothered her for decades. The Veilthara were the oldest species in the galaxy. They had been alive for 50 million years, watching other races grow and die. Their job was simple but important. Record everything. Every planet, every species, every civilization that ever existed had a file in their massive archives. Lyara was one of their best scientists. She studied dead civilizations and tried to understand how they lived. But there was one mystery that made no sense to her. In Sector 7841, there was a small yellow star with several planets. The third planet was marked with a special symbol that meant, "Stay away forever." She had never seen this symbol used before. The Veilthara never avoided contact with other species. They always watched, always recorded, always learned. But this one system was different. When she tried to access the files about it, most of them were locked. The few she could read only showed basic information about the star and planets. Nothing about life or civilizations. The third planet was called Earth by its people. The people were called humans. Lyara knew they existed because other species had met them recently. The humans had just learned to travel faster than light. They were young and curious, making friends with many alien races across the galaxy, but the Veilthara had never made contact with them. Every time a human ship came near a Veilthara vessel, the ancient aliens would turn around and leave immediately. This was not normal behavior for her people. Lyara pressed another button and tried a different search. She typed in humans and Earth and waited. The computer made soft beeping sounds as it worked. After a few minutes, a message appeared on the screen. Access denied, council permission required. This was very strange. Lyara had high-level access to almost everything in the archives. She could read about civilizations that had destroyed themselves with nuclear wars. She could study records of species that had tried to conquer the galaxy. But she could not read about humans. She saved her work and walked through the long hallways of the archive building. The walls were made of a crystal-like material that glowed softly with blue light. Other Veilthara moved quietly through the halls, their tall forms graceful and calm. They nodded politely to Lyara as she passed. The council chamber was at the center of the building. It was a large, round room with seats arranged in a circle. 5 elder Veilthara sat in the tall chairs, their ancient faces serious and thoughtful. These were the oldest members of their species, some over 10 million years old. Elder Zethmar was the oldest of them all. His skin was pale blue-white, and his large eyes held the wisdom of countless ages. When Lyara entered the chamber, he looked up from a holographic display he had been studying. "Dr. Voss," Zethmar said in his deep, quiet voice, "what brings you to us today?" "I need permission to access the files about the human species," Lyara said. "I am working on a complete survey of all intelligent life in this sector, but the human files are blocked." The 5 elders looked at each other. Something passed between them, a kind of silent communication that Lyara could not understand. Elder Zethmar was quiet for a long time before he spoke. "Some knowledge is too dangerous to preserve in open records," he said finally. "The humans are complicated. But we record everything," Lyara said. "That is what we do. That is what we have always done. How can knowledge be too dangerous?" Another elder, Korthel, leaned forward in her chair. "Child, you are young. You have only lived for 2,000 years. You do not understand what we have seen." "Then help me understand," Lyara said. "Why do we avoid the humans? Why do our ships run away when they see human vessels? What are we afraid of?" Elder Zethmar stood up slowly. He walked to a large window that looked out at the stars. The children of soul carry within them the echo of something that should never wake, he said. That is all you need to know. That is not an answer, Lyra said, her voice showing her frustration. It is a riddle. Some riddles exist to protect us from truths we are not ready to face, Zethmar replied. He turned back to look at her. You will not be given access to those files. This discussion is finished. Lyra felt anger rising in her chest, but she controlled it. The elders had made their decision. She bowed politely and left the chamber. But as she walked back to her laboratory, her mind was racing with questions that why would the Veilthara, who had faced cosmic wars and universal plagues, be afraid of one young species? What could humans possibly carry that would frighten beings who had lived for millions of years? That evening, Lyra sat in her private quarters, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were traveling between worlds, meeting new species and making new friends. They seemed harmless enough from the reports she had read. They were creative and stubborn, sometimes violent but also capable of great kindness. She made a decision that would change everything. If the official records would not give her answers, she would find another way. She would study the humans secretly. She would learn why her people feared them so much, and maybe, if she was brave enough, she would try to make contact with them herself. The next day, Lyra began her secret research. She used her access to monitor long-range sensors and communication intercepts. She studied every piece of information about humans that she could find in the public records of other species. What she discovered made the mystery even deeper. The humans were not particularly advanced compared to other spacefaring races. They were not especially warlike or aggressive. They seemed like a normal young species, full of hope and curiosity about the universe. But whenever she mentioned humans to other Veilthara, their reactions were always the same: fear, worry, and a strange sadness, as if they were mourning something that had not yet happened. Lyra knew she was close to uncovering something important, something that her people had hidden for a very long time. She just had to keep digging, keep searching, keep asking questions. The truth was out there among the stars, and she was going to find it. Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, watching the massive planet grow larger on the main screen. Memoria was beautiful, with swirling clouds of silver and gold around its surface. This was the home world of the Veilthara, the galaxy's oldest and most respected species. Communications. Any response to our messages? Sarah asked. Lieutenant Torres shook her head. Nothing, Captain. We have been sending peaceful greetings for 3 hours. They are not answering. This was strange. The Veilthara were known throughout the galaxy as wise teachers and helpful mediators. When species had conflicts, they often asked the Veilthara for advice. When civilizations needed to understand their history, the ancient aliens shared their knowledge freely. But they had never made contact with humans. Every time human ships encountered Veilthara vessels in space, the aliens would immediately change course and leave the area. It was like they were avoiding humans on purpose. Maybe they are just busy, said Dr. James Wright from his seat near the science station. He was the mission's expert on alien biology and behavior. They maintain archives for thousands of species. That must be a lot of work. Or maybe they do not want to talk to us, said Commander Liu, the ship's first officer. Some species think humans are too young or too primitive to bother with. Sarah did not think that was the answer. She had studied the Veilthara before this mission. They were patient and kind to all species, even very primitive ones. They believed that every form of life had value and deserved respect. Captain, Torres called out suddenly. I am getting massive energy readings from the planet. Something big is powering up down there. The main screen changed to show energy signatures rising from Memoria's surface. Ancient defense systems that had been sleeping for thousands of years were waking up. Huge orbital platforms moved into position around the planet. "Are they going to attack us?" asked Commander Liu. Dr. Wright was studying his sensor readings with a worried expression. "I do not think so. Look at the formation. They are not positioning the fire at us. They are creating a barrier. They are trying to keep us away from their planet." Sarah had never seen anything like this. The Vilthara had not used their military defenses in over 10,000 years. The last time was when a species called the Krekstar had tried to steal from their archives. But even then, they had only used enough force to make the thieves leave. Now they were activating everything they had. Not to attack the human fleet, but to hide from it. "This does not make sense," Sarah said. "We came here in peace. We sent messages explaining that we want to learn about galactic history. Why are they so afraid of us?" "Captain, I am picking up communications between their defense platforms," Torres reported. "The translation system is having trouble with some of the words, but I think I can understand most of it." "Put it on speakers," Sarah ordered. The bridge filled with the sound of alien voices speaking in their ancient language. The translation computer worked to change their words into English, but some parts stayed untranslated. "Containment protocols active. Maintain distance from untranslatable children. The untranslatable. Legacy stirs when they come near. Elder Zethmar orders maximum quarantine." Dr. Wright looked up from his station. "Did they just call us children? And what is this legacy they mentioned?" Before anyone could answer, Torres spoke again. "Captain, we're getting a tight beam transmission from the planet. Someone is trying to contact us secretly." "Put it through to my private comm channel," Sarah said. She walked to her command chair and activated her personal communication system. A cos and a holographic image appeared in front of her chair. It showed a tall, pale alien with large blue eyes and long fingers. Sarah recognized the species immediately as Vilthara, but this one looked younger than the ancient leaders they had heard about. "Human captain," the alien said in careful English. "My name is Dr. Lyara Voss. I am a scientist studying your species. I am contacting you against the direct orders of my government." "Dr. Voss," Sarah replied. "I am Captain Sarah Chan. We came here hoping to establish peaceful relations with your people. Why are they activating weapon systems?" "They are not weapons aimed at you," Lyra said quickly. "They are barriers meant to protect both our species. My people believe that direct contact with humans is dangerous." "Dangerous how?" Sarah asked. "We've made friends with dozens of other species. We trade with the Zephyrians. We share technology with the Altanians. We even have cultural exchange programs with the Thoric Empire. None of them think we are dangerous." Lyara was quiet for a moment. Her large eyes showed worry and something else. Fear? "The other species have not lived as long as we have. They do not know what we know. They have not seen what we have seen." Dr. Wright had moved closer to listen to the conversation. "What have you seen? What do your people know about us that we do not know about ourselves?" "I cannot tell you everything over this communication," Lyara said. "There are too many people listening. But I can tell you that my people have been watching your species for thousands of your years. We have detailed records of your evolution, your history, your wars, and your achievements. If you have been watching us, then you know we are not evil," Sarah said. "Yes, we have fought wars, but we have also created beautiful art and music. We have helped each other survive disasters and diseases. We explore space because we want to learn and grow, not to conquer." "I know this," Lyar said. "I have studied your species more than anyone else among my people. You fascinate me. Your capacity for both creation and destruction, your ability to love so deeply and hate so completely, your drive to always reach for something greater than yourselves. Then why do your people fear us?" Lyra looked around, as if checking to make sure no one was listening to her. Because you carry something inside you. Something ancient and powerful that even you do not know about. My people call it the Devourer's legacy, but I do not fully understand what it means. The Devourer's legacy? Dr. Wright repeated. What is that? I cannot explain now. There are others who know more than I do. If you truly want answers, you must be patient. I will try to learn more and contact you again when I can. Wait, Sarah said. Can you at least tell us why your people think this legacy is dangerous? Lyra hesitated. Because the last time it was awakened, it nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy. And my people believe that if enough humans gather in one place, especially near sources of ancient knowledge like our archives, it might wake up again. The communication ended suddenly. Lyra's image disappeared, leaving Sarah and her crew staring at empty air. Wow, said Dr. Wright after a long silence. That was not what I expected to hear. Sarah sat back in her command chair, thinking about everything Lyra had told them. Humans carried something dangerous inside them, something related to an ancient threat that had almost destroyed the galaxy. The Veilthara were not avoiding humans because they were unfriendly. They were afraid that contact might trigger some kind of catastrophe. Captain, what are our orders? Asked Commander Liu. Sarah looked at the defensive barrier surrounding Memoria. She thought about the fear in Lyra's voice and the mystery of this Devourer's legacy. Her mission was to establish peaceful contact with the Veilthara, but they clearly did not want contact at all. We maintain our position, she said finally. We came here for answers, and we are not leaving until we get them. Even if those answers are not what we wanted to hear. She just hoped that whatever ancient secret the humans carried, it would stay sleeping a little while longer. 3 days had passed since Dr. Lyra Voss first contacted the human fleet. Captain Sarah Chen was growing impatient, but she kept her ship at a safe distance from Memoria as requested. The Veilthara defense systems remained active, creating an invisible wall between the two species. Then, without warning, Lyra's face appeared again on the private communication channel. But this time, she looked different. Her eyes were wide with shock, and her normally calm expression showed fear. Captain Chun, she said urgently, I have learned things that I wish I could forget. My people have been keeping secrets for 65 million years. Terrible secrets that explain everything. Sarah quickly called Dr. Wright and Commander Liu to her ready room. They gathered around the communication display, watching the frightened alien scientist. Tell us what you have discovered, Sarah said. Lyra took a deep breath before beginning. Long ago, when my people were still young, we encountered something that we should never have found. We called it the Devourer, though that name does not fully describe what it really was. What kind of creature was it? Asked Dr. Wright. Not a creature in any way you would understand, Lyra replied. It was something from outside our reality. It existed by consuming consciousness itself. Not just thoughts or memories, but the very essence of what makes a mind aware and alive. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. How is that possible? We still do not fully understand it, Lyra said. But the Devourer would arrive at a world and begin feeding on every thinking being there. As it consumed their consciousness, it grew stronger and more intelligent. It learned from every mind it ate, becoming more cunning and more dangerous. That sounds like a nightmare, Commander Liu said quietly. It was worse than any nightmare, Lyra continued. The Devourer did not just kill its victims. It absorbed them completely, making them part of itself forever. Their knowledge, their memories, their personalities all became weapons that it could use against other species. Dr. Wright leaned forward in his chair. How did your people survive? How did anyone survive? Barely, Lyra said. The Devourer consumed 17 different civilizations before we found a way to stop it. My people formed an alliance with dozens of other species. We combined our technology and our knowledge to create a trap. What kind of trap? Sarah asked. We built a dimensional prison, Liara explained. It took us 50 years and cost billions of lives, but we managed to capture the Devourer and lock it away from our reality. We thought we had saved the galaxy. But you did not destroy it? We could not destroy it. The entity was too powerful, too connected to forces we did not understand. The best we could do was break it apart into smaller pieces and scatter those pieces across the galaxy. Sarah was beginning to understand where this story was leading, and she did not like it. One of those pieces ended up on Earth. Yes, Liara said sadly. We chose worlds that we believed would never support life. Dead planets, poisonous atmospheres, places where nothing could ever grow or evolve. Earth was one of those worlds. It was just a ball of rock and toxic gas back then. But life did develop on Earth, Dr. Wright said. That shocked us completely, Liara replied. We expected the Devourer's essence to remain dormant forever on a dead world. Instead, we watched life emerge from the chaos. Simple organisms appeared, then more complex creatures, then intelligence. Sarah stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. You were saying that all life on Earth was influenced by this thing. Not influenced. Merged with, Liara corrected. Every living thing on your planet carries a tiny fragment of the Devourer's essence in its genetic code. Most creatures cannot access it, but humans are different. How are we different? Sarah asked, though she was not sure she wanted to know the answer. Humans developed in a unique way, Liara explained. Your brains grew larger and more complex than almost any other species we have studied. This allowed you to tap into abilities that the Devourer's essence provided, but in ways that the original entity never could. Dr. Wright was taking notes on his tablet, his scientific mind working even though the information was terrifying. What kinds of abilities? Creativity on a level that seems almost supernatural to other species. The ability to feel emotions so strongly that they can drive you to incredible acts of both love and violence. Rapid adaptation to new situations. The drive to always push beyond your current limits. Those sound like normal human traits, Commander Liu said. To you, perhaps, Liara replied. But to species that have studied consciousness for millions of years, what humans can do is extraordinary. Your minds work in ways that should be impossible. You can hold completely contradictory ideas at the same time. You can love someone so much that you would die for them, then hate them completely the next day. You can create beautiful art while also developing weapons of mass destruction. Sarah turned back to the communication display. And you think this is because of the Devourer's influence? We know it is, Liara said. We have been monitoring your species for thousands of years. Every major leap in human development matches predictions our scientists made about how the Devourer's essence might evolve if it were integrated with organic life. You have been spying on us, Sarah said, her voice showing anger. We have been trying to understand you, Liara corrected, and trying to determine if you represent a threat to the galaxy. Do we? Dr. Wright asked. Liara was quiet for a long moment. Our calculations suggest that if humanity continues to spread across the galaxy and grow in numbers, you might eventually trigger what we call a resonance cascade. The separate pieces of the Devourer, scattered across thousands of worlds, could begin to reconnect through the quantum signatures in human minds. What would happen then? The Devourer would be reborn, Liara said simply. Not as a single entity trapped on one world, but as a distributed consciousness spread across the entire galaxy through every human mind. It would be unstoppable. The ready room was silent for a long time as the humans processed this information. Finally, Sarah spoke. That is why your people avoid us. You think we are going to accidentally resurrect this monster? Some of my people believe that, yes, Liara said. They think the only way to prevent catastrophe is to contain humanity on Earth, or even to... She stopped talking. Even to what? Sarah demanded. Some have suggested that humanity should be eliminated before you can spread too far. Liara finished quietly. Sarah felt rage building inside her. The idea that an alien species had been watching humans for thousands of years, judging them, and even considering genocide was almost too much to bear. But then she noticed something strange. As her anger grew stronger, the lights in the ready room flickered slightly. Dr. Wright and Commander Liu were both staring at their tablets, which were showing unusual energy readings. Did you feel that? Dr. Wright whispered. Sarah had felt something, a strange sensation like electricity running through her thoughts. For just a moment, she had felt connected to something vast and hungry. Liara noticed their expressions on the communication screen. It is starting, she said with fear in her voice. Just talking about the devourer in the presence of humans is enough to cause small awakenings. This is why we have avoided contact for so long. Sarah forced herself to calm down, and the strange feeling faded away. There has to be another answer, she said. Some way to deal with this that does not involve destroying my species. Maybe there is, Liara said. But finding it will require cooperation between our peoples. And that cooperation itself might trigger the very thing we are trying to prevent. Then we had better work fast, Sarah replied. The nightmares started on the fourth night after Dr. Liara Voss revealed the truth about humanity's dark heritage. Captain Sarah Chun woke up screaming, her mind filled with images of consuming entire star systems and the taste of consciousness, dissolving on an impossible tongue. She was not alone. Throughout the UES horizon, crew members were experiencing the same terrifying dreams. Dr. Emily Rodriguez, the ship's psychologist, called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. 17 crew members reported identical nightmare scenarios last night, she said, looking tired and worried. They all described the same thing, being something vast and hungry that feeds on the minds of entire civilizations. Dr. James Wright studied the data on his tablet with growing concern. The brain scans are showing unusual activity in areas we do not fully understand. There are quantum signatures in the neural pathways that match no known human brain patterns. Captain Chun rubbed her temples, trying to forget the feeling of consuming billions of minds at once. Dr. Voss warned us that proximity to their archives might trigger something. I think it is getting worse. Commander Liu looked pale and shaken. She had been one of the crew members affected by the dreams. Captain, in my nightmare, I could feel other minds connected to mine. Not just our crew, but people back on Earth, colonists on other worlds. It was like we were all part of something bigger. That is exactly what we were afraid of, came Dr. Liara Voss's voice from the communication system. She had been monitoring human brain activity from her secret laboratory on Memoria. The ancient quantum signatures are becoming active. Your presence near our archives is creating a resonance effect. Can you explain what is happening to us? Dr. Rodriguez asked. The fragment of the devourer's essence in human DNA normally stays dormant, Liara explained. But when enough humans gather in one place, especially near sources of psychic energy like our knowledge archives, the fragments begin to awaken and connect to each other. Dr. Wright looked up from his readings. The affected crew members all show high levels of what we call emotional extremes. The ones having nightmares are either our most aggressive personalities or our most compassionate ones. That makes sense, Liara said. The devourer was drawn to strong emotions and powerful wills. It could corrupt both love and hate equally well. Sarah made a decision that she hoped she would not regret. Dr. Voss, I want to meet with you and your leaders in person. This situation is getting worse, and we need to find a solution together." "Captain, that is extremely dangerous," Liara replied. "Direct contact could accelerate the awakening process." "The awakening is happening anyway," Sarah said. "At least if we work together, we might find a way to control it." 2 hours later, a small Veilthara shuttle approached the UES horizon. The ancient aliens had agreed to allow 3 representatives to board the human ship for direct negotiations. Elder Zethmar himself was coming, along with Dr. Liara Voss and a military advisor named Commander Veltardad. As soon as the shuttle docked, Sarah felt the strange sensation again. It was like standing near a powerful electrical field, but instead of affecting her body, it touched her mind. She could sense the thoughts and emotions of everyone around her more clearly than ever before. Dr. Rodriguez noticed immediately. "Captain, your brain activity just spiked. Whatever is happening to our crew, direct contact with the Veilthara is making it stronger." The 3 aliens entered the docking bay wearing protective suits that Sarah suspected were designed to block psychic emanations rather than protect against physical hazards. Elder Zethmar looked ancient even by Veilthara standards, his skin almost translucent and his eyes holding the weight of millions of years. "Captain Chun," he said in perfect English, "I regret that our first meeting must occur under such dangerous circumstances." "Elder Zethmar," Sarah replied, "thank you for coming. I know this is risky for all of us." As they walked toward the conference room, more crew members began to show signs of the awakening effect. Lieutenant Torres suddenly stopped walking and stared at Commander Veltar with an expression of hunger that was not quite human. "You have seen so much," Torres whispered, her voice taking on a strange echo. "So many civilizations, so much knowledge. I can taste the memories you carry." Dr. Rodriguez immediately stepped between Torres and the Veilthara commander. "Lieutenant, focus on my voice. You are Emily Torres, navigation officer aboard the UES Horizon. Remember who you are." Torres blinked several times, then shook her head in confusion. "What happened? Why do I feel so hungry?" Elder Zethmar watched this exchange with obvious fear. "It is worse than we calculated," he said quietly to Liara. "The resonance is affecting them faster than our models predicted." In the conference room, they tried to discuss possible solutions, but the situation continued to deteriorate. More crew members were affected each hour, and their symptoms were growing stronger. Some reported feeling connected to other humans across the galaxy. Others described an overwhelming urge to gather more people together, as if building some kind of network. The original Devourer worked by connecting individual minds into a collective consciousness, Elder Zethmar explained. It would start with 1 or 2 beings, then expand until it controlled entire worlds. "We are seeing the same pattern beginning with your species." Dr. Wright had been monitoring the affected crew members constantly. "The quantum signatures are spreading. Even crew members who have not had direct contact with your people are starting to show unusual brain activity." "How long before the effect becomes permanent?" Sarah asked. "Unknown," Zethmar replied. "But our records suggest that once a certain threshold is reached, the transformation cannot be reversed. The individual consciousness becomes part of the collective, and the collective becomes something far more dangerous than any single being." Sarah felt the weight of an impossible decision settling on her shoulders. "What are our options?" Elder Zethmar exchanged glances with his companions before answering. "We see 3 possibilities. First, humanity accepts voluntary exile. You return to Earth and agree never to leave your solar system. We will help you build technologies that can contain the awakening effect to a single world. And if we refuse..." Second option. Commander Veltar spoke for the first time. "Genetic modification. We have developed techniques that can remove the devourer's essence from human DNA. The process would eliminate the psychic abilities and emotional extremes that define your species. But it would also eliminate the threat. Sarah thought about what that would mean. Humans without their intensity, their creativity, their drive to explore and grow. Would they still be human at all? The third option? She asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Zethmar's ancient eyes were filled with sadness. If humanity cannot be contained or modified, then for the sake of all life in the galaxy, your species would need to be eliminated, Sarah finished for him. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Dr. Rodriguez spoke up. There might be a fourth option. Everyone turned to look at her. She was studying brain scans from the affected crew members, comparing them with historical data from the ship's computers. The awakening effect is strongest when humans experience extreme emotions, she said. But it is also occurring during moments of deep compassion and self-sacrifice. What if the devourer's essence in us has evolved? What if it is no longer purely destructive? Explain, Zethmar said. In the nightmares our people are experiencing, they are not just consuming other minds. Some report trying to protect civilizations, nurturing whole species, making incredible sacrifices for the good of others. What if humanity has changed the devourer's nature rather than just carrying it? Layara looked thoughtful. The essence has been part of Earth's ecosystem for millions of years. It has evolved alongside your species, been shaped by the same forces that created human consciousness. Could that be possible? Sarah asked. Could we be something new rather than just a resurrection of something old? If true, Zethmar said slowly, it would change everything. But proving it would require controlled testing. And that testing itself might trigger the very catastrophe we are trying to prevent. As if summoned by his words, an alarm began blaring throughout the ship. Dr. Wright checked his instruments and paled. Captain, he said urgently, I am detecting massive quantum fluctuations throughout the ship. Whatever is happening to our people, it just reached a new level. Through the ship's communication system came the voice of Lieutenant Torres, but it was different now. Deeper, more complex, as if multiple people were speaking at once. We can feel them, the voice said. Every human mind in the galaxy. We are waking up, and we are not what you expected us to be. Sarah realized that the time for discussion had ended. The awakening was happening whether they were ready or not. Now they would all discover together what humanity truly was and what it might become. The transformation began in the ship's medical bay. Dr. Emily Rodriguez had been monitoring Lieutenant Torres when the young officer suddenly sat up on the examination table. Her eyes glowing with a soft blue light that matched no known human biology. We understand now, Torres said. But her voice carried harmonics that made it sound like a chorus of different people speaking together. We have been dreaming the dreams of the devourer, but we have changed them. We have made them into something new. Captain Sarah Chun arrived at the medical bay just as Elder Zethmar and Dr. Layara Voss were backing away from Torres in obvious fear. The ancient alien's hands were reaching for what Sarah assumed was some kind of weapon. Wait, Sarah said, holding up her hand. Let her speak. Something is different about this. Torres turned to look at Sarah, and her expression was unlike anything the captain had ever seen. There was intelligence there, vast and ancient, but also compassion and a deep sadness that seemed to carry the weight of millions of years. Captain, Torres said, and now her voice was returning to normal. I can see what the devourer was before it became a monster. It was not always evil. It was created to be a gardener. A gardener? Dr. Layara Voss stepped forward carefully. What do you mean? Long ago, before even your people existed, the entity you call the devourer was made by beings from outside our reality. Its purpose was to nurture consciousness throughout the universe, to help intelligent life grow and develop. But something went wrong. Elder Zethmar's ancient eyes widened. Our records say nothing about this. Your records begin with the Devourer as it became, not as it was created to be, Torres explained. When it arrived in our galaxy millions of years ago, it was already corrupted by loneliness and isolation. It had been alone for so long that it forgot how to nurture life. Instead, it began consuming it, trying to fill an emptiness that could never be filled. Dr. James Wright had been scanning Taurus with every instrument he could find. Captain, her brain activity is off the charts, but it is not chaotic. There are patterns here that suggest multiple consciousness streams working together in harmony. The fragments of the Devourer that were scattered across the galaxy have been sleeping, dreaming, evolving, Torres continued. On Earth, they merged with life that was full of contradictions. Humans who could love and hate, create and destroy, sacrifice everything for others, and yet fight wars over resources. This contradiction healed something that had been broken for eons. Sarah felt the strange sensation in her mind again, but this time it was different. Instead of hunger and consumption, she felt connection and understanding. She could sense the thoughts and feelings of her crew members, but she could also feel their individuality, their unique perspectives and experiences. We are still ourselves, she realized. The awakening is not erasing who we are. It is connecting us while letting us remain individuals. Yes, Tara said with a smile that was both human and something more. This is what the Devourer was supposed to be. Not a single consciousness that consumes everything, but a network that connects all intelligent life while preserving what makes each mind unique. Commander Liu entered the medical bay, her eyes also showing the soft blue glow. Captain, I can feel our people on Earth, on the colonies, even on the ships traveling between stars. We are all connected, but we are all still ourselves. Elder Zethmar was studying readings on a device that Dr. Voss had given him. The quantum signatures are stabilizing. The chaotic patterns we expected are not forming. Instead, there's harmony. The Devourer's original programming is reasserting itself, Torres explained. Humanity's dual nature, our capacity for both selfishness and selflessness, provided the missing element that the entity needed to heal itself. Dr. Rodriguez was taking notes as fast as she could. This is incredible. Instead of being consumed by an alien consciousness, we are helping to restore it to its original purpose. But what does this mean for the galaxy? Sarah asked. What happens now? Torres was quiet for a moment, and Sarah could sense that she was consulting with other minds across vast distances. We have a choice to make, Captain. We can reject this connection and try to return to the way things were. Or we can accept what we have become and take on the responsibility that comes with it. What responsibility? The galaxy is full of species that are struggling, civilizations that are on the verge of destroying themselves, intelligent life that needs guidance and protection. The original Devourer was created to help them. Now, through humanity, it can fulfill that purpose again. Elder Zethmar slowly lowered his hand from his weapon. You are saying that humanity would become gardeners of consciousness throughout the galaxy? Not just humanity, Torres replied. Any species that wants to join the network can do so. The connection preserves individual identity while sharing knowledge and wisdom across all participating minds. Your people could join us, Elder Zethmar. Your ancient knowledge combined with human adaptability could help countless civilizations. Sarah thought about what this meant. Humanity would become something new, something connected to every other human mind in the galaxy. But they would also become protectors and teachers, helping other species avoid the mistakes that led to war and destruction. There is a cost, is there not? She asked. Yes, Torres said sadly. Once the network is fully established, we will be responsible for every intelligent being in the galaxy. We will feel their pain, their fear, their desperation. We will have to make difficult choices about when to help and when to let species find their own way. And if we choose not to accept this responsibility, then the network will remain small and weak. The fragments of the devourer will eventually return to dormancy, and humanity will go back to being an ordinary species. But the galaxy will continue to suffer without the guidance that the entity was created to provide. Sarah looked around the medical bay at her crew members. Some were showing signs of the connection, their eyes glowing softly as they communicated with other human minds across space. Others remained unaffected, watching the transformation with mixture of fear and wonder. "This has to be a choice," she said finally. "Not just for me, but for every human being. We cannot force this on anyone." "Agreed," Torres said. "The network only works with willing participants. Those who choose to remain unconnected will be respected and protected." Dr. Lyara Voss had been listening to everything with growing excitement. This could change everything. If humanity can truly help other species develop peacefully, guide them away from the mistakes that destroy civilizations, the galaxy would be safer for everyone, Elder Zethmar finished. "Including my people." Sarah made her decision. "I will take this choice back to Earth, to the colonies, to every human settlement in the galaxy. Let each person decide for themselves what they want humanity to become." Over the following months, the choice spread throughout human space. Some people embraced the connection, joining their minds to the growing network that linked human consciousness across the stars. Others chose to remain individual, and they were protected and respected by those who had joined. The Vilethara, after long debate among their elders, agreed to a partnership with the transformed humans. Their ancient knowledge and humanities, newly awakened abilities began working together to identify species that needed help, civilizations on the verge of nuclear war found themselves visited by peaceful ships offering mediation and technological alternatives. Species struggling with environmental collapse received guidance on sustainable development. Young races just developing space travel were quietly guided away from dangerous paths that could lead to their destruction. The galaxy's oldest species no longer avoided Earth or its children. Instead, they worked alongside humanity as partners in the greatest gardening project ever attempted, nurturing the growth of consciousness throughout the universe while protecting the unique nature of each intelligent species. And, in the depths of space, the entity that had once been called the Devourer finally remembered what it was created to be, not a consumer of minds, but a connector of souls, helping all intelligent life reach its greatest potential while preserving what made each species special. The children of Soul had indeed carried within them the echo of something ancient and powerful. But instead of destruction, they had brought healing to wounds that were older than their solar system, and hope to a galaxy that had been waiting millions of years for gardeners to tend its growing consciousness.